everybody. Thank you so much for being on. My name is Karina Goodwin. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with East, and we have an amazing panel of parents here with us. We've had to get a little creative with how to develop and kind of come across our future East Angel experience now that we are in this novel coronavirus climate and we're fully remote. So we have gathered a wonderful group of Angel parents for a panel that'll hopefully be informational and helpful for you kind of to navigate this transition and give you some tips and pointers and things that can help as you're deciding hopefully to become a future Angel. So we are excited to have you join us, and we'll run through just some brief introductions and then we'll get started on some commonly asked questions. So Bonnie, why don't we have you go first?
Thank you. My name is Bonnie LaFleur, and I am one of the 9th grade counselors. My caseload is students whose last names fall between A and K. And I'm here because we have so many questions from parents and as part of the Future East Angels and for any support.
Awesome. Thanks, Bethany. All right, Megan, let's have you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Megan Bertrand, and I have been a parent at East for quite some time. I have 2 students who've graduated from East already. One was the class of 2015, and he came from Maury Middle School. One was the class of 2019, and she also came from Maury. And I have a class of 2025 Angel coming in next year, and she is coming from the McAuliffe campus at Manual High School. Excited to be back.
Yay, thank you. All right, Mr. and Miss Burzins, have you go.
I'm Margaret Burzins, and this is my husband, Mark. We have also been at East for quite a stretch of time. We have not had any gap years. So, our oldest daughter graduated, well, all of our kids came from Grayland Country Day, so a smaller private school. Our oldest daughter graduated from East in 2014, and then our second daughter graduated in 15. Our son graduated in 18, and then we have a current daughter who's a junior at East. So that's 22. So we've been around a long time and feel like we've sort of seen it all, but not this. We haven't seen this particular stage.
Perfect. Thank you for being here. Blythe, let's have you go.
Hi, I am Blythe Kingsbury, and I have a sophomore. He came from McAuliffe, and we will have 2 additional East Angels eventually, one who's in 7th grade currently and one who's in 4th. And so far, we have really loved our experience.
Yay, thank you. All right, Rebecca.
Hi, everyone. My name is Rebecca Gibbs and Sharon Thompson, my fiance, and we have a 11th grader who's class of 2022. He came in 2018. The middle school he came from is Blaisbridge Academy, and we love East. And also, the community parent of his 2 best friends that goes to East as well, and they graduated in 2022. So.
Awesome. Thank you both for being here. All right, and Colleen.
Hi, thanks for having me. My name is Colleen Cosme, and I am personally an East High School graduate. So I'm an alum, and I have a son that graduated in 2020, and he was at Maury Middle School before coming to East. And I have a daughter who is a sophomore and came from McAuliffe at Smiley.
Awesome. Well, perfect. Thank you all so much for being here. We have such a wide variety of parents and students, and so I think this will be really great. I really appreciate you all. Okay, so we will jump right in. Our first question is, what was your transition to East like, and what helped your student get connected and feel comfortable at East? So whoever wants to jump in.
Well, okay.
I'll start. Go ahead.
No, go for it, Margaret. You were on here. Go for it.
Okay. Like I said, our kids came from a smaller private school. And so East was our neighborhood school. So that was sort of a kind of a no-brainer for my husband and I to make that decision. Once we had one go, and she loved it from the day she shadowed to all the 4 years that she was there. It was pretty easy for the rest of the kids to sort of follow suit. As far as transitioning, obviously it was very different from what they were used to. I think the biggest thing that they had to learn, that we all had to learn actually as parents and as students, was that self-advocacy part. Coming from a smaller private school, they did a lot of hand-holding for us. And maybe one example is even just as simple as picture day, making sure you order your picture and someone isn't sending you a reminder. So we failed on that a couple times. But it was just a real eye opener of, and it's just such a great life skill in general, moving forward of, if you need something, if you want something, if you see something, you have to speak up, you have to go to the right person. And it was really learning who the right people were. But I have to say, we've had so many great opportunities to connect with teachers, administrators, all sorts of people, counselors, and everyone was super helpful as far as sort of getting us on our way.
504 advocacy was the same sort of thing.
Yeah, we definitely dealt with that as well with one of our children. And again, it's, you have to follow up. And then once you're sort of in the loop, people know who you are and they follow up with you. But it's kind of keeping after it. And again, those are all great skills for your students to learn pretty quickly, because that you do that for the rest of your life. So.
I definitely agree with the self-advocacy. I did a lot of that myself. Ms. LaFleur knows my face and my name very well. I walked into the office as often as I wanted to just keep in the loop and know what's going on, to just what can I do to help him, or because it's coming from a middle school as small as Placebridge Academy, not necessarily small, but it was a mixed culture, but very small versus the 2,500 kids at East High School. It's a big difference, and it can be scary. But just if you're able to be a parent to help that child, to push them, that hey, do what you have to do, go talk to this individual, do this, or whatever the case may be, it would help. So yes, I agree. Yeah.
So I'd weigh in here and just say, oh, sorry, you done, Rebecca?
I am done.
Sorry. My kids, both the two who have already been to East, came from Maury when it was a pretty big, and it's a feeder school to East, so it was a neighborhood school. So that transition was probably a little simpler because they had a chunk of kids moving with them. But some of the things that are super helpful, if you have sports teams in the fall that you're interested in, my son ran cross country and my daughter played field hockey. Huge, amazing way to just meet kids right off the bat, especially if you don't have kids coming with you from your school. There's always a big club fair that happens right away in the fall. And I know this year they did it virtually, and I actually watched some of the videos. They were awesome. It was so fun to see. 9th grade academy, definitely my oldest missed 9th grade academy, but my middle made it, and she probably needed it even more than my son did, because she's a little more introverted, and I will for sure make my 8th grader do it in whatever form it takes this year. So it's nice to have a couple friends who are moving with you from middle school, but it's also really nice to kind of have start over and have a few things. So I would just encourage your kids to find a couple things right off the bat that they can start getting involved with.
And I will second that. We had a very nice opportunity where my son played rugby, and given the teams that he was a part of before high school, he was able to play in 8th grade at East. So he already had connections with freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors by the time he went into East. And honestly, it was really, really disappointing last year because he missed all of that team togetherness because the rugby season got canceled, and he was really excited to get to learn from last year's seniors and take it into this year, and it unfortunately got squashed. But in previous years, that's been a huge deal for a lot of the players, so it was really beneficial for him.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you all. All right. We kind of talked a little bit about advocacy, but what were some specific ways, or how did you support your student in learning ways for them to really advocate themselves or for themselves, especially coming into a school with 2,500 kids and a staff of 200, and it can be easy to kind of get lost in that. So how did you guys really encourage your students to find their voice and really be able to kind of self-advocate for themselves?
Yeah, this is Colleen. I can answer that one. So I think it's a constant process, to be honest. I'm still working with my freshman in college on, reasons that he needs to have a relationship with his teacher and kind of talk through some of the different challenges that he's having. I think, for my daughter, who's a sophomore, this year has been even extra challenging because the good news is that during the school year, most teachers have office hours during lunchtime or a specific time that they have a break period that you can go in and work with them, or after class is a really great time to catch, those teachers in a lot of cases. And that hasn't been as natural in the Zoom environment. What I've found is whenever my daughter does do that and develop a relationship, so it kind of first starts even before she has an issue, which is just making sure that the teacher knows her name, knows who she is, knows what she's interested in, knows what her, sort of strengths and weaknesses are. So, I've encouraged her to kind of stay after class just to get to know the teacher a little bit better for a few minutes from that perspective, so that she feels more comfortable when she has to go and ask for help. But then when she does get behind in an assignment, or she needs some additional support in terms of understanding the assignment, it's been hard because, to some extent she sees it as a failure if she has to go to the teacher and say, hey, I need extra help here because nobody else is asking for that extra help. But it almost always pays off, and that teacher ends up working with her on the grade, on the assignment, etc. And then the other thing that I will state is that there does seem to be a pretty significant disconnect a lot of times between the grade book and when teachers turn things in. And so when I'm looking, kind of at the parent portal, it's been this interesting discrepancy between, like, she may have a D because it shows that there's a bunch of assignments, and she'll say, I've turned all those in, and I think that probably I've found 75% of the time that's true, but then my kids have also figured out to rely on that when they haven't. And so, I think it's making sure, again, that they're in conversations with those teachers. And then also as a parent, I've started to feel comfortable reaching out to teachers after they've tried it quite a few times, or if I feel like I really need to kind of validate where those missing assignments and where those needs are. I'll usually email the teacher and just kind of confirm where things sit along those lines.
I could definitely second that with Colleen. That's something I do. I reach out to the teachers myself. I'm like, hey, I see this grade. I'm being told this is turned in. What's really going on? And I actually even had a discrepancy with my son's music teacher, and they were not clicking, they were not meshing well. So I had a consultation with the counselor, myself, the teacher, and Malachi. So therefore, we can sit down together and we can all be on the same page, because our students, our kids know how to figure out how to get around certain things, because they're teenagers. We all did it when we were growing up, but as parents, we know better because we did it. So a way to get into the system and speaking to the students. And I love what you told your student, your daughter, to have the teacher know her name. So therefore, when she do have a problem, it wouldn't be like territories that she haven't crossed. So
yeah, establish that first connection with the teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add that for our experience, most of the time, teachers are super flexible when it comes to, your student had a problem, or they were up too late, or all these different things. And I have always encouraged our kids, reach out to your teacher, because the worst thing that can happen is they can say, no, you can't turn it in for whatever. But more often than not, the teacher is willing to work with the student to figure out how to get it in, because nobody wants a missing assignment or something that they just didn't get for whatever reason, even if it's a stupid reason, like now you missed your Zoom time because you overslept or whatever. But I think for the most part, my kids have had very good luck with great teachers who are super understanding, and as I remind my kids, are human beings, and get that things come up. And so it's really important for them to make an effort to reach out to fix something that maybe they fell short on. And for the most part, they've had good success with that. And that, again, that goes back to Colleen's comment of developing a relationship. So it's not so hard to ask when your teacher knows that you're doing your best and you're trying. And you can establish that pretty quickly if you let them know what your situation is.
And I think
this is, sorry, Megan.
No worries. I would just add really quickly that I think good habit to get into. And if freshman year you just find one teacher who you really like, maybe you don't need help, but just go hang out, get to know them. They might sponsor a club that you love. They might be somebody who down the road you can go back to. So you might not necessarily need anything, but it's good practice to get into, to just meet some of your teachers. Down the road, you're going to need them for college recommendations. And then one day, hopefully you're going to go to college and you're really going to need to know how to reach out to faculty on your own. So it's a good habit.
And I'm going to come at it from an angle that doesn't really have to do with academics. Mine has to do more with the social, emotional, behavioral stuff. My student came in thinking that because the school was slightly bigger than middle school, he was going to be able to coast under the radar. And that was kind of because he had been watched with a hawk's eye at middle school and everybody knew him. And it didn't help that I worked at his school. So he thought he would be able to coast differently. And what he found out is that he actually struggled more going that direction. And it was great because the teachers started noticing that and started approaching him to make him comfortable. And so I would say, if you're not the type of student or you don't have the type of student who wants to make those connections, be open to it when the teachers are willing to step up to you and talk to you, because it was after that point that he realized the counselors are legitimately there to work with him. And he started meeting with the counselors semi-regularly and formed a connection that his peers didn't witness because that was not something that he was comfortable with. And it was actually, we ended up having a pretty decent year. So that was great.
Perfect. Cool. All right. And thank you, Miss Veronica, for joining. I'm so sorry I didn't get you the link until just now, but I appreciate you being here with us. All right. Okay, so another commonly asked question that we often get, especially from parents, is kind of how does lunch work and what are some of the safety precautions that are in place as we have a fully open campus lunch. Kids are able to go wherever they want during lunchtime in terms of up onto Colfax. And so I can speak a little bit to this, and then I know, Mark, you can also kind of speak to this, but our administration does an excellent job of keeping our kids really safe throughout lunch. It's so funny. I always see all of our assistant principals and counselors and everybody like changing into their tennis shoes at lunchtime because they all go outside and walk around and have different kind of areas that they patrol during lunch to make sure that our kids stay safe. And for it is kind of one of the most enjoyable times because kids are able to kind of let loose and be with their friend. I mean, obviously not right now because nobody's up there right now, but we're always on walkies, making sure everybody is safe and crossing the street okay, and really managing that process in a really safe way. And I know it's something that our kids really love and kind of gives them a taste of freedom of being able to kind of go wherever they want and do whatever they want. And it's we've created such really great partnerships with a lot of our local businesses right up on Colfax, and they love seeing our kids, and they love, they get to know our kids. And so it's a really, really cool experience. And, our administration and our dean team and our assistant principals and all of our leadership do a really great job of keeping all of our kids really safe and making sure it's a really enjoyable time for everybody. Yeah, do you guys have anything to add with how kind of lunch works and safety or anything?
Yeah, I'm glad to speak up on this. I know that aren't a lot of, oftentimes there aren't a lot of dads that have concerns about East, but the few dads that I talk to, especially coming from a private school environment where your kids are in this bubble, they're always worried about, that's like their number one concern is how safe is it? And I just think it's really important for everyone to know that East, both inside and outside East, is such a safe environment. And anybody who tells you different has clearly never been there. I think rumors fly. There are rumors about Colfax and how crazy Colfax is. East is really its own amazingly special place. And what makes it that way is you're an East student first and foremost, and those East kids stick together in ways that are so heartwarming. And over and over again, I'm amazed at the East community, and especially the students, how the students look out for each other. And other than a huge need to observe lighted crosswalks, and that's really, really important because there have been unfortunate pedestrian accidents in the past. Observe the crosswalks, but in terms of the climate on Colfax and the businesses on Colfax, those students, think of it like a school of fish. There's this huge school of fish that all goes out together, and there's safety in that group. And upperclassmen look out for underclassmen. You just are one of that school of fish that's going out and finding your food. And so I cannot emphasize enough that anyone who has concerns about their student being safe inside or outside of East, they could not be more safe. And more importantly, they are learning to navigate the real world, learning to step up and order food in a proper way. That's a life skill. Learning to navigate your way on a city sidewalk and all of the challenges that presents, that is a real life skill. Learning to ride the bus, that's a real life skill. And so don't look at it as scary, look at it as another part, a big bonus part of the education that all of our students get to enjoy because of the location of this school.
I would add another misconception about lunchtime at East is that the kids just get to go out on Colfax and they stay out there and there's no time limit and who's keeping track of who's coming back. They have, I think it's 50 minutes, maybe 45. So they have to be very direct in where they're going, what they're ordering, how long it takes to eat it, because they have to be back in that building for that next period after lunch, and attendance is taken and the administration is watching. And if you're late, I've been at the school during lunchtime and it's chaotic, but once that bell rings, they are in the hallway saying, get to class, why aren't you in class? And they get a tardy or whatever. And so the expectation is very clear that you're not just hanging out on Colfax for 2 hours and then you go back to school when you feel like it. It is a very short amount of time, and the kids know that they got it. They got to get it in, get it out, and be ready to go. And I think most of the kids are aware of that expectation and need it every single day.
I also wanted to add that not all students go out to lunch. I don't want you to feel like you have to shell out a lot of money as parents, letting your kids go out to lunch every day. I do think it's a status symbol. Students like to come with their fast food thing to show that they've been somewhere, but it's not a necessity. And our lunchroom has done some really, really cool things and has brought some different foods in for options for students as well. And so I just wanted to put that out there, that going out to lunch is an awesome experience, but it's not really an everyday thing for most students, I don't think. I think that most students maybe go out to lunch once or twice a week, and then they mix it in with different things, like bringing their lunch, having it at the club, meeting with a teacher and sitting in a teacher's classroom and having lunch. And so a student might present that they need to have money to go out to lunch every day, but that is not the case.
And
that's what I was gonna. Oh,
Go ahead,
I was
Veronica.
just gonna add that. Okay, as well as that, it's because you're talking about life lessons and life skills. The budgeting aspect is is a good life skill for our students when it comes to, at least I'll speak. We reminded our son, who's a senior now, and then I have a freshman, so she hasn't been able to have that life pass to go to lunch yet. So she's looking forward to the time where she can be able to share that experience. But that was something that we had to incorporate in the life. You only have so much to spend for the week. And so he learned that, okay, I have this, I better divvy that or figure out how to sandwich in my bag or some days of the week, and then treat myself and others. So I think that's a good learning experience for him as well, that they can't just go out and willy-nilly, at least not in our household, and spend $30 a day on lunch. So
Agreed. I was gonna add the cafeteria is really pretty. It's beautiful, brand new, and kids do enjoy it. With our son, we give him a certain amount for the week, as you said, Veronica, and this is what you have. If you spend it all out on one day, you have 4 more days to figure out. Have nothing to do with me. You have to be responsible. And so, but now he's a junior. He has became more responsible, and they learned how to share between each other and just enjoy that that companionship between each other while having lunch. If I buy today, can you buy tomorrow kind of situation, so they have that relationship.
Awesome. Perfect.
And one other comment about lunch is all of the businesses, the local businesses around East who see these kids come in, it is very common for some of the kids to order and some of the kids to bring their brown bag, and the businesses are usually very accommodating to sort of a mixture of things. So you can still go out with your friends if they want to go to Noodles, and you can just bring your sack lunch with you. All the businesses are very, lenient about that kind of thing. So you can still have that feeling and bring your own lunch. It happens.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. For those of you who have or used to, since nobody's coming into the building right now, but drop off in the mornings or pick up in the afternoons. Look, it can be crazy of driving there in the mornings. What tips do you guys have for kind of pick up or drop off if you guys take your kids or pick your kids up from school?
We've always dropped our kids off. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Olga.
Oh, that's fine. I was just going to say, we either drop him off. He can walk because we live within a mile or so, like a mile away from the school, or he takes the bus. So those are 3 options. So we love to have them take the bus because it's life skills, and that way how to maneuver on the bus for school, because you have to be there within a certain time. And early in the morning, rush hour. So therefore, bus, no matter if you're driving on the bus, it's rush hour. So that's the great experience for the kids to learn. So yeah.
We've always dropped our kids in the Circle, which is on the south side of the Esplanade, so the south side of Colfax, or on Colfax, and then you scoot out from there. I would say my biggest tip is never, ever go down the Esplanade in the morning or ever, or you will not get out.
That's a rookie move.
So
Agreed, never.
Detroit Street, which is also squat, but never ever go down the Esplanade.
So we live walking distance to school, and I'm I'm a hard ass. Get yourself out of bed, walk down there. I'm not going to save you if you don't make it, you're going to be late. So I would encourage any of you who can walk to school to sort of encourage that. Get out there, be on time.
Yeah.
So we got used to it.
Outside of it, like, so, and that's one thing that's nice. We actually live outside of the 3 mile radius, or inside of the 3 mile radius. I'm trying to remember what the requirements are to get the free bus pass, but all that my kids had to do was stop by the office every the first day of every month, and they got a free RTD local bus pass. And so, you know, that was to my daughter's dismay sometimes, because, you know, she's one that didn't love the bus, but we live off of in Park Hill, and it was super easy to take. And, you know, and then the tips on that are also, you know, with my son, when he took the bus, he figured out that instead of getting on at that bus stop that's right at the end of Esplanade and 17th, he would actually walk down a block and get on a little bit earlier. And so you can kind of like and then also with, you know, some of the Central Park kids that were coming, you know, from the east, it would get kind of busier in the morning. So she would start to figure out like which bus time to take so that she could make sure to get a seat or get on the bus and not be completely crowded. But there's definitely, it's super easy to do, and a lot of students do it.
And I'll say my student has to ride his bike through City Park. And for any parents who are nervous about that, it's actually been a great learning experience. And we have lots of conversations, especially when the homeless encampments have kind of cropped up again, and he comes home and talks about things. And it's actually, it's been really positive for us, and led to a lot of really well thought out conversations. So yeah.
Awesome. That was great. Lots of different ways to get, and that's one of the best things about, I think, East, is it being right in the city. There's some real life experiences that happen, you know, not just in the building, but around it and navigating that. So that's awesome. All right. What are the expectations surrounding homework? And for those kiddos who came from schools that didn't have homework, or the workload was much different, how did you guys navigate that transition surrounding homework?
So I could jump on with that at first. With homework, it was always a hit and miss, because in middle school, he didn't really get a lot of homework. High school, so he was trying to, you know, at first it was like, I have no homework, but, you know, that's why I reached out to the teachers always. When the school year starts, what are the expectations? I want the same expectations sent to me that you give to him, so therefore I would know what's going on. So I'll just, you know, stay on him with the homework, and just make sure that he's getting it done. And if he needs any help or assistance, I would ask him to like go to the after school, because I know when school was open, they had the library open for tutoring, and that was a great help, because, you know, as parents, we think we know what's going on in the school, because, you know, it's similar to what we learned, but it's definitely different from how we may do the same thing. So the teachers being able to tutor the students in the library on their lunch breaks or after school was a great help. And just being able to learn with him as well, because he's helping me. But I also asked him this question. I was like, hey, what is his expectation around homework? So his answer is easier, obviously, understandable, so therefore it's easy to get done. And just some students work after school, as he said, but other than that, easier and understandable so that it's easier to get done was his tidbit towards the homework question, because I asked him that before we got on the call.
Cool.
And for us, we are on the fact that he came from McAuliffe and there was no homework there when he was there. And so freshman year was an adjustment for him. And we did have him, he could have a certain amount of time where he went and socialized after school, but then he would have to come home and do his homework. So he had to be home at a certain time. It wasn't a free-for-all, because I get that once you get older and you have more control over understanding the assignments and what's expected, you can work into the wee hours of the morning. And that's just, I think, something we all played around with. But I know that that's not a skill he has yet. So for us, it was very important that he learn how to manage his time and understand that assignments should take a little bit longer and some aren't going to, and that's okay. And it was actually, again, the rugby thing, the sports and the clubs, I think, are really, really instrumental, because he would have rugby practice until 9 o'clock at night. So he would have to come home. Like, he knew it was in his best interest. So there wasn't even a fight about it. Come home, he would do the work, and then he'd go to practice because he was exhausted by the time he got home from practice. Yeah.
And I was going to add that I think at the beginning, when my son, when he was a senior and a sophomore, you have to find that balance between, in Schoology as a parent, reminding your son or daughter what's to do. But I thought I was maybe a little bit pushy, but then I realized that he kind of appreciated that I actually was checking and kind of on top of everything. So I think that was good for him, for me to be involved. And if he was quite sure when something was due or how much time he should spend on something, I think he actually appreciated me saying, you remember you have this due, or you remember you have this test. I think you should spend this amount of time on each day. That until when he got older, and then I kind of, weaned him off. But, there's that balance in there, even though I kind of got in there sometimes in between. But I think overall he was appreciative, which then, now, of course, as a senior, then he's able to, balance his stuff. And then, every now and then with the online, I can check in and say, oh, you got something big coming up, and he still kind of gives me the eye of like, why am I looking? But I don't think it hurts. I think they appreciate just kind of us kind of being able to check and stay, at least for my son. Now my daughter, on the other hand, she, even as a freshman right now, she's able to just kind of do her own thing, and she gets everything done. So I think it just kind of depends on your kid of how much you probably should just kind of keep one eye open to see actually what's coming through when it comes to homework and studying and stuff. So.
And I'll just add one more thing onto what Veronica says. Infinite Campus is such an amazing tool, and I, as a parent, really had to learn my limits on that. I think with my older kids, I was on it way too much. And checking, even though they had a handle on stuff, I was thinking I need to be on here all the time and see what they're doing. And so as a parent, I really learned, all right, maybe once a week or once every 10 days for some of my students, some I needed to do it more. I should check in and say, I noticed you have a missing assignment in math. Do you know about that? And so again, it was sort of me not overdoing it with that, but at least, but as Veronica said, still keeping tabs on it. And they know, their teachers really tell them that's a tool for them, and you can kind of keep track of what's in, what's out. And then again, I feel like we've been out of school for so long, I forget some of the normal things that kids used to do, which was really utilizing the Wednesday, Thursday tutorials. And if people don't know, we have block days typically in a normal school year. There are block days on Wednesdays and Thursdays. You stay a few minutes longer on Wednesday, and your classes are a little bit longer, and you have half the classes. And then Thursday you have a few classes and they're a little bit longer, and then you get out about 1:15. But those teachers, if not from your actual class, but from your department, are there at school, and they are there until I think 3:30 to help you make up a test or make up homework or answer questions. And all my kids, some of them it took a little longer than others, but utilize that, and it made a huge difference. And even if you go with a couple friends, to make it a little easier to go visit a teacher and ask questions, or they had some study groups. But those 2 tutorial days were really important. And not, like I said, not necessarily every week, but just knowing that those are available, and you can have some one-on-one conversations with teachers who are going to be there. The kids know that they are going to be at school, and they can count on that. So.
Awesome. Perfect. Thank you all. All right. We've kind of talked a little bit about this, but how, especially with those of you coming from smaller schools or even bigger schools, but with your introverts, how did you really encourage your kids to get involved and try new things, or, you know, try clubs or different things that they may not have, you know, thought to experience, but kind of how did you encourage your kids to get involved with different things?
So I'll start. I think I mentioned already, like the club fair and the fall sports and stuff. And I think as a parent, for sure, as a freshman, I pay much closer attention with the freshmen to all the communications coming out of the school so that I know what's coming up and I can give kind of a little nudge. I also think, and most of the kids who are coming to East already know what our sort of iconic programs that are out there are, but they're great. I mean, you might think of speech and debate as a class, but it's more than a class. It's also an amazing way to really get involved with outside of the building, because you're traveling and doing competitions, and same with the drama program at East. So there are some classes that I think can be great things to suggest to your student as a way both to develop some new skills and also to kind of get involved with a new group of kids. And they may hate it, they may love it, but they'll at least have tried something new, and there's never any harm learning a little bit of public speaking. We have like some very cool, I think, student-led journalism programs in the building that are great ways to get involved, that are both academic and extracurricular. So but I do think as a parent, to encourage that participation, you have to just be paying attention to the communication that's coming out of the building so that you have a little sense of what's going on and you can give that nudge. That said, there are plenty of kids out there, mine are some of them, who, if I encourage it, it's automatically on the I will never do that as long as I live list. So you have to be careful, tread lightly, but there's all kinds of amazing stuff to get involved with.
I'll add one more thing to that. It's also great at East to be a spectator of all those things. I think that's, if your kid is not a drama kid or not a music kid or even not a sports kid, encouraging your kids to go to games, go to performances, because I think, again, that's a huge strength of East, is the support that fellow students give each other. And you, as a parent, we've been blown away by some of the things that these kids are capable of doing on the field, in the classroom, on the stage. And I think that's a huge piece. If, like I said, if your kid doesn't necessarily want to be the performer in any of those things, just to be able to go and be a fan is really a great way to participate.
A lot of school spirit at East High School.
Yeah, for sure.
Awesome. Anybody else have anything?
As parents, please join the PTSA so you can get some information about what's going on in school. And that way, I'm the PTSA chair, by the way. So reach out, look up for my name on the website, connect with the PTSA so they can learn about the programs and everything that we have going, and just get involved. And that's a good way to get involved. That way a student could see that you're doing more and maybe want to be involved more often as well.
Awesome. Yes, PTSA is wonderful. It's a great connector and a great way to stay involved with things that are coming up. So awesome. Thank you, Rebecca, for that.
Yeah, that's a great reminder to parents, especially if you are coming out of a private school environment where you have administration and staff who think of everything that your family might need or that your family might want. East is very much just like your student has to learn to advocate for themselves. It's on you as parents to plug in. There are lots of ways to plug in, and East needs the help. And so if you're transitioning from private to public, remember, if you have an idea, you probably can help make it happen, and you should. And you can't just expect all of those things to fall out. You need to be involved with PTSA. You need to be involved with East Rugby was mentioned. That's an amazing transformative program for young men from all walks of life. But the parent community around East Rugby might be even more amazing than the program itself. And you're going to find that all over East High School. All of these students have amazing parents behind them, and you're missing out if you don't get involved as a parent.
Awesome.
And I have to second that. Not only PTSA, but also it's like all the clubs and stuff I know that the children have involved in. There's always been opportunity for parents to be involved, like debate, you know, and then there's drama and dance and just in all the sports teams, tennis, everything you can think of. I think East does a really good job of asking for parents to come along, be involved, to serve on some kind of whatever, if it's nothing else to help put on the banquet or in band, is asking for parent support. So I would second that as a parent, whatever club or classes that your kid is involved in, just always make sure to just sign up, even if it's just for one event, but make sure so that way you can get a feel of what's doing. And then also I think that's just a good encouragement for your kid, of course, to want to continue with that activity, whatever it is. So.
Awesome. Perfect. And then our last question, we've talked a lot about this, but what do you guys, or how do you feel the best way is to kind of stay abreast on all that's happening within the East community? I know we've talked a little bit about Schoology and Infinite Campus, but how do you feel the best way to stay in the loop or stay updated with communications is, or what tips do you have for families just to kind of keep in the know and stay kind of involved with what's going on?
I actually love the Instagram feed. It's a nice, short and sweet. I'm not a big social media user, but it's such a nice, like, simple, oh, the PTSA or the PSAT signups are coming up. Poof, you know, I love it. So I would push the Instagram feed.
Yes, social media.
And
definitely.
Yeah. And I would say, even though you could think that attending a PTSA meeting, is too much, but it's only once a month. And John usually speaks at our meetings and you can ask him whatever. So I would just encourage just to join the PTSA and attend the meetings. You just get so much information from that, and it doesn't much of your time.
And the newsletters, because the newsletters also gives a lot of information about what's coming up, the update, all of those different things. So PTSA is a great way. Margaret's does social media is definitely great because most people don't want to read their emails sometimes, but they will scroll through social media and they will pop up the whatever and be like, oh, cool. And then they might go back and check their email because it will come back to them like, oh, I've seen this on my email or whatever the case may be. So those are really two ways. Oh, just come into the school and come and check out the school and get involved and come into the events that the school have. As they said, the sports and the clubs are definitely great ways to stay involved. Like after prom programs and stuff like that. It's definitely cool programs to just learn about it because East has a whole lot of different ways to be involved. We just got to look for them and actually do it.
And the newsletter, I think, is helpful as well.
Yeah.
And I would say that I know in every school and in every business, there's a chain of communication. And so if you have questions, you should maybe start with the teacher, maybe go to a counselor. But I would say never be afraid to go straight to the top. John Youngquist, he would probably be mad at me for saying this, but email him if you have a question and he will email you back. He's a very approachable principal, as are all of the administrators. I've had lots of conversations for lots of different things with many of them, and they're very responsive, and they are glad that you reach out and have questions, and they're always willing to find out the answer if they don't know it themselves. So I would definitely say, don't be afraid to start at the top, because they welcome your comments, your questions, and feedback for sure.
We definitely have to plug our counseling team too, because they are incredible resources for all of our kids, and they have huge caseloads, and they do an incredible job of just maintaining and really getting to know all of our kids on a really personal level, and their parents and their families and what's going on. So also a really great resource as you guys are coming in
and I would have to,
yeah, go ahead.
I just say I have to second that about our counselors. So amazed. I'm just always tuning out.
I know.
I'll third that.
Thank you, guys. And if you ever have any questions about anything, that's just another way to get your questions answered, is to reach out to your student's counselor, and they will get back to you as soon as they can with the information that you need, for sure.
Awesome.
Resources, numbers.
Yeah. You guys have been incredible, so helpful. Is there anything else that you feel would be helpful for parents, incoming kiddos? I know we're in this crazy time that nobody knows what's going on, but in terms of just your experiences, is there anything lastly that you'd like to add or let parents and families know about what it's like being an angel?
And I also wanted to.
Sorry, go ahead, Rebecca.
I was just saying to let them know it's awesome being an angel, and just enjoy the process and grow and learn and take as much advice as you can, and just enjoy the process.
Yeah. And I second that. And oops, I'm sorry.
You go, Veronica.
Okay. And I just wanted to also remind everybody that Karina is an excellent resource too, as well, because she knows how to connect everything together from whatever. So I don't know if she has time to be bombarded by emails or whatnot, but you are an excellent source. So we appreciate you, Karina.
Thank you. Yes, I'm also always here to help and yes, be a great connector within the building, help navigate questions. And so please send me your questions, whatever you need. I'm always happy to help.
And for parents and students, East has such a strong support system that I do feel this is a safe time to kind of try things you're not used to. And parents, let that leash go a little bit. Kids need to learn how to fail, and this is a really safe place to do that. And to figure out boundaries and to figure out who they are and what they're going to be. There's just a lot of people looking out for them. And I think that it's really important that they reach out to other adults and learn how to create those relationships with adults outside of the house.
Awesome.
I would say the last thing, having done a few new student orientations with my older kids and then missed my youngest day, but signing up for classes is a bit of a experience. Especially if you've never been in a big school like this. Your student won't always get their first choice. Again, you have to advocate to get your student in the class that they need, and sometimes even if it's just that they want to be in it and you think it's really important, the counselors are really helpful sliding those little numbered puzzle pieces around to fit kids in where they really need to be. And dovetailing off of that, if you're coming from a middle school that has a strong foreign language program, or if you have a student who is adept at foreign languages, you want to pay really close attention to your incoming freshmen, what foreign language class they get placed in. Don't assume that they just slot into Spanish 1 or Spanish 2. That's one space where you could quickly find your student in way over their head, or that they are not being challenged enough. And so that's another good spot to find your counselor right away and say, hey, I want to make sure your foreign language is appropriate, because that is something that that's one of those things that's not real linear from middle school to high school for a lot of these students.
And that's a requirement for graduation too, right, Mark? Or Yeah, so that's I just want to reiterate that how important that is, because it is a requirement for graduation.
Awesome. Well, thank you all so much. You guys have been incredible. And I really appreciate you sharing all of your tips and tricks and knowledge and wisdom for all of our future angels that I know are very excited, but also it's kind of scary. It's a scary transition for parents. And I only have a 3-year-old right now, so I'm still, but it was, yeah. So I get it. Yeah, but I just really appreciate you all so much for your time and for sharing so much with our incoming families. So thank you so much for being here. I'll go ahead and stop recording. Okay.